What's up, y'all? I'm back. This is a video I've been wanting to make for y'all for a long time because I'm going to cover how I pack everything I take with me on a trip into my tiny trailer and load it in a way that keeps the trailer balanced so it can travel smoothly and safely down the road. Let's talk about why a balanced load matters so much, starting up here at the tongue. It's a general rule that you want 10 to 15% of your total load weight loaded closer toward the tongue of the trailer for extra tongue weight. The reason you want to do that is because if it gets too heavy in the back of the trailer, it can actually cause the trailer to sway really dangerously, and it gets exasperated at higher speeds, which is not the time you want to figure out that your trailer is loaded poorly. You want to make sure that you keep this in mind from the beginning and you never experience that awful sway. Alternatively, if you pack too much of your load toward the front of the trailer and you have too much tongue weight, it can strain your tow vehicle, make it difficult to steer. And you can actually squat the tow vehicle low enough that you might bottom out going in and out of steep driveways. So you want to really keep this in mind when you're loading your trailer and achieve that good balance that gives you that smooth ride. Additionally, just as important as balancing your load is front to back, you also want to think about your weight distribution from side to side. Some things to consider are if you have a refrigerator on the driver's side like I do, you want to balance that out with some extra weight on the passenger side, not only to keep the trailer from rocking, but it helps maximize the effectiveness of your trailer brakes. If you've got trailer brakes, they're designed to apply the same amount of pressure to both tires at the same time. So if you have too much weight on one side of the axle, that could theoretically affect how effective your trailer brakes are, making you less safe on the road. So another reason balance is so important is to make sure that you're not rocking too hard and to maximize the safety and effectiveness of your trailer brakes. And some other things to consider when you're packing your trailer are to keep the heavy items close to the axle, low to the ground, and secure everything in a way that it's not going to come flying out of cabinets and you'll have total chaos when you reach your destination. Now that we've covered all the whys, let me show you how I like to do it. I'm going to be on the road for 3 weeks and I've got to get all of this stuff in my tiny trailer and my tow vehicle because I'm leaving tomorrow. My very first step in my packing process is to make the bed. It's my least favorite part of packing, so I like to get it over with and get it out of the way. And plus it gives winter a cool place to hang out while I'm packing the rest of the trailer. I'm going to be experiencing all 4 seasons on this trip because it's September and I'm going to be traveling through October, so I've got plenty of extra blankets there, and what looks like a lumpy pillow is actually a down comforter that I put inside this pillowcase here. So if it gets really cold, I have a lot of extra insulation that I can use, but that also doubles as like a back cushion, turning that spot more into a couch because I swapped out the cushions in my Scamp for a memory foam mattress under here that I cut the rounded corners to fit in here with an electric turkey carving knife because those cushions just weren't it for me. So I have a whole mattress that means my bed stays in bed mode all the time. It never goes into dinette mode. So having that down comforter is extra insulation, and then it kind of gives me like a couch loungy spot when I'm not sleeping. Then my next step is to think about that extra 10 to 15% tongue weight that I want. So I'll start loading equipment and I'll show you where I put everything to achieve that perfect balance. One of the heaviest things I take with me is actually water. I got this 12-liter water carrier because Scamp doesn't recommend that you travel with water in your freshwater tank because it puts too much weight in the back of the trailer and it can cause a lot of sway. Plus the straps don't hold it in place very well when there's water sloshing around. So I'll be carrying my water separately. So this is the first thing I load. Since the shower basin is so far forward, it's a great place to help achieve that extra tongue weight. But since the water is so heavy, I don't want to put it all the way forward and make the front of the trailer too heavy. So I'll put the water right here. It'll get other stuff packed around it to keep it from sloshing around or moving. But putting it here closest to the axle but toward the front of the trailer adds a lot of weight to the front, helping me achieve that 10 to 15% tongue weight. Other things that fit well here go near it, like my blocks that I use for leveling, my Sea Gear sand-free mat, which I love. If you haven't checked these out yet, these things are awesome. This can fit right here next to the water and help keep it from sloshing around. This box has all of my water supplies, including my filter, my hose, my funnel, my emergency water filtering system if I get stuck somewhere in a pinch and I need to filter water by hand. That's all in this box, and that can fit easily right here. This is my pop-up trash can. Once I get to a campsite, I can hold all my trash in this pop-up can. It's super convenient and it's really lightweight. And it tucks nicely right behind the toilet. You might be starting to see how these things hold each other in place when they're packed up right here. So this is a system I've come up with to keep everything from shifting around. Next, I've got these collapsible basins that I use for dishwashing when I get to a campsite, and they fit perfectly in this spot right here. That creates a perfect little space where I can set some beverages right here in their case behind the water. And then finally, that creates a tiny space right here, which I can put my shower bag, which has all of my toiletries, and my microfiber towel, which if you're not using microfiber towels, this is the way to go. These things are so lightweight and they dry way faster. So I'll put links to everything I'm packing in the description if you need anything too, but that can go inside my shower bag. So all my stuff is together and ready when I want to go take a shower. I can cram that right in here with a little bit of finesse. And then all those things work together to keep each other in place. Nothing's going to shift. And I've got a bunch of heavy stuff toward the front to help me achieve the tongue weight that I desire. One last thing I like to store in my bathroom is my hanging laundry bag. I put some command hooks back here on the wall. I can hang my laundry up, and they've actually been strong enough to hold my laundry even when it's swinging around when the trailer's moving. So super surprised that the command hooks have held up, but it's an easy place to hang my laundry that's out of the way and not anywhere that I need to like move around or shift to try to get to my clothes or whatever. It's a convenient spot for it. And additionally, I have this trash can here next to the toilet. It's just a little skinny kind that fits in there. I didn't have to pack that because it pretty much lives here. That's the only spot it fits. So that keeps my trash from going everywhere when I'm driving too. Keeping the balance in mind, since we've got all this weight up here in the front, we need to balance that out with slightly less weight back here in the back. So that's what I utilize this space underneath the dinette for, is to put things back here to balance out the front stuff that isn't quite as heavy, but will help balance out that load front to back. And this is just some gym floor mat stuff that I put down under here to keep the floor from scratching, because I slide a lot of stuff in here like my camping chairs, and I just don't want to scratch up the vinyl flooring that's under here. So this helps insulate and protects the floor. And I've also got this tension bar that you'll see once I've got everything in there, I can use as a brace to keep everything from sliding forward. So let me show you what I cram under here. First thing going in are my camping chairs, and these things are big and bulky and they take up a lot of space. But to me, they're absolutely worth it because they're so comfortable, and I love being comfortable when I sit around the campsite. I put them in opposite directions so they kind of nest right up against each other. Next thing going in is my Coleman camping stove, which I got this nice case for that allows you to carry 2 propane bottles with it, and it protects the stove while you're in transit. And then I've got all my barbecue tools tucked in this pouch in the front. So very convenient, helps everything stay nice and compact. And this, I won't need till I get to a campsite, so I slide that all the way back. The next thing going in to help that stove stand upright is a grill grate, which I carry because a lot of the fire pits in these out of the way places that I go are pretty busted up, and the grill grates are usually damaged and hard to cook on. So this keeps my food from falling into the fire. And I've also got a couple of roasty sticks for some hot dogs tucked in here. So it's just the grill grate in the box that it came in. I can slide that next to the stove all the way back. Next, some heavier items that I also won't need until I get to my destination are my chalk and locks. These are pretty heavy, but I don't need them till I arrive and want to leave my trailer put somewhere. So I can slide these back here. And the weight of these guys help balance out all the weight that I put in front of the trailer without overdoing it and making the back of the trailer heavier than the front. Another item that's super easy to slip in here is my wood chopping axe, and that can just go between the legs of my camping chairs here. Kind of slides in wherever I have room. And the chairs keep that from sliding forward. Then I've got another backpack. This is full of my sports equipment. There's a specific sport I'm planning to do on this trip, so this is the equipment I need for that. So if I put this in front of everything here, it's big and it's bulky, and it kind of keeps those things I put further back pushed toward the back there. And then I can insert this tension bar right here and just twist it until it's good and tight. And the bar will keep all this stuff secure. It's low enough that nothing can slide forward. The bulkier items hold the bigger stuff toward the back, so I won't have a huge mess when I arrive at my campsite. Next thing, I like to move on to my kitchen, and I don't really have to pack this drawer because this stuff pretty much stays in here all the time. So I've got my tin foil and my Ziploc bags and trash bags for the bathroom trash can, and then all of my utensils, can openers, scissors, everything bubble level. It's kind of just packed in here in these little tubs that I got from Target a really long time ago. That just kind of keeps everything organized, and there's even a spatula hiding in here. So if you're creative, you can cram a lot into this tiny drawer. And that stuff pretty much lives in here. I don't have to pack it or unpack it. It's just my camping specific equipment. couple of other things that go in this drawer that I forgot to mention are some camp knives that I have. These are by Gerber. These are incredible. They come with sheaths, so they're really compact. They're not going to poke you when you reach in the drawer. They have these really high quality sheaths, and these are sharp. I love these knives. These are great. They're super comfortable, grippy, durable for camping. These are by Gerber gear. I'll link these below too. But I can just slide these in the drawer here too as well. Toss this one here. This bigger one has to go in the back of the drawer. It's a little too long to go front to back, but I can kind of pull everything forward, slide it in the back there, and just put everything back. I just have to remember that it's there. And also, I almost forgot to pack my tongs, so those go in here too. Just cram them in wherever they fit. Then in this tiny drawer that's underneath the kitchen sink, I just kind of have random doodads in here. I have a ton of backup fire starters because I never want to not be able to start a fire or light my stove. I've got some of these barrel fuses, which are just spare parts that I carry for the Scamp. These are some really awesome lights that are USB. They're low powered, and you can see how compact they are. They fit in your hand. They're awesome, and they get so bright I can actually cook under these. So these are from REI. I'll link these below as well. I got some backup batteries for the remote and the thermostat, some playing cards. This is just a compact rope because you never know when you're going to need rope. And for the dog, which she's not coming, so I can get rid of these. And then just like some medications and stuff in here for emergency illnesses. So that pretty much takes up this tiny little drawer. It doesn't hold very much, so that's what goes in there. But up here in my kitchen cabinets above the sink and the stove, I've added this rubber liner to the bottom of these shelves because they were really slippy underneath there, and without it, everything was just like sliding around and stuff could come flying out of these cabinets. So I just cut, it's just this rubber liner that you can get anywhere. I'll put a link if you want to get it off Amazon or whatever, but it's sticky and it provides like a grippy surface for stuff, so it doesn't slide around so much and stuff doesn't come flying out of my cabinets like it used to. And additionally, with the addition of these struts here, I made a video on these. They actually help hold these closed a little bit too, so they add a little more tension than the cabinets used to have. So I think between the rubber liner that I put here and the struts that I've added to these cabinets, they stay closed a lot better and things don't come flying out like they used to. So the things that go above the kitchen sink here, I have this dish drying mat, which is flat and sticky as well. So I just throw that on the bottom here, and it kind of adds another grippy surface for things to sit on, and then it's packed away. I don't really need that till I get to a campsite. On top of that dish drying mat, I like to put my cast iron skillet, and I keep a handle on there. So I have like a little oven glove that fits right on the handle there so I don't burn my hand. But this gets really messy. So I like to slip it into one of these giant Ziploc bags. This is, I want to say it's like a 30-gallon or something. I'll put it on the screen and link to it. You can slip your cast iron pan right into it, so any grease from the seasoning on the pan's not going to get on anything else. So you can still nest stuff in here, and it keeps it from making the other pots and pans gross. So this 12-inch cast iron, it can fit right in here if you get the handle tucked in. I gotta let the air out of the bag here, so that it's easy to still nest the rest of my stuff on top of it, and it keeps its seasoning contained to itself. After that, I packed this Hexaclad pan, which is kind of like a hybrid cast iron frying pan that, who's that famous chef who made these? I can't think of his name right now, but these are pretty awesome pans, and they're crazy durable, and they're easy to clean like cast iron. So I have one of those for like a frying pan, goes right in there. On top of that, I put my Stanley cook pot, which is awesome because you can actually strain pasta through it, and it folds up really nicely and the handle comes out really easily. So very compact and Scamp friendly. Big fan of Stanley, so I'll link this below too. That can fit right inside on that other Hexaclad pan. Then I've got some stainless steel drinking glasses that I appreciate just because they're never going to crack or break or anything. Stainless steel is very trailer friendly, and they can fit in this little nook created by the cast iron skillet. And I can also put one of my drink koozies. This helps insulate my beverages. I can fit right inside there. I usually take 2 of them because I have someone join me, so this can kind of scoot back here behind the Stanley pan. Basically use any vacant space that I have to just really make sure that I'm utilizing this space up here. Following that, I gotta have my Scamper Life mug, shameless self-plug. These are available on my website if you want this cute, adorable little enamel Scamper Life mug. I love this, perfect for coffee in the morning, and it's so tiny that it fits anywhere, so I can just tuck that in next to the handle, next to my cast iron skillet. So compact, cute, works well for the Scamp. Love it. Speaking of tiny things, I have this super tiny cutting board, which is good for just like taking out to the camp table and cutting up my veggies and stuff. And it's got this nice little juice catcher, so nothing's gonna like run off onto the camp table. So this is super tiny. I think it's by, yeah, GSI Outdoors. It's very small, don't let the footage fool you, but I like it because it's so small that you can just slide it in behind everything over here. And it takes up very little space in the cabinetry, and it gets pinned up against the wall by all the pots and pans. In that space between these two cabinets, it's a little hard to see. I like to cram my French press. This is my go-to coffee making system on the road. It's off-grid friendly. You just boil water, super duper easy. I use a spatula to get the grinds out and dump the grinds in the trash can. Really easy. This one's plastic, so it's not going to shatter. So that fits perfectly right here, crammed up next to the cutting board. Then in this cabinet closest to the bed, I got this camp dish set. It comes with 4 of everything. It's got salad plates, dinner plates. They're just cute and RV related, and they're really durable. They don't crack. They're not very fancy or aesthetic or anything, but they came with 4 of everything, including some bowls. So these all stack really nicely in the corner right here, and they're lightweight and they'll never break. So I don't think they're microwave safe. So if you have a microwave, these probably aren't for you, but they've been great for me. Next to those, I like to pack some Tupperware for leftovers and whatnot. Pretty self-explanatory. They all nest in there really nicely. I can put the lids underneath and keep everything all in one stack here. Then I've got some vacant space where I would typically put my wife's mug and some of her specific dishes, but she's not coming on this trip. So I'm going to use my kitchen towels and just kind of roll them up and cram them here in this vacant space so they can ride there and also help keep stuff from sliding around. I'll just kind of use up the vacant space with these guys here, and that'll keep stuff from sliding forward, hitting the back of the cabinets and trying to fly out here. And I might even flip these over here so they're a little less top heavy. I might find another towel or washcloth or something just to kind of keep these from sliding around, because anything that can wiggle has the chance of flying out of the cabinetry. So let me see what I can shove there. So I found some additional rags and microfiber cloths, and then like my washcloth for my face and stuff. So I'll just put that in right here. And that'll keep stuff from banging around and staying put. And I still have a lot more room. If I discover that I need to pack something else, I can rearrange. But so far, this system has worked really well for my solo trips. Keeps everything in there tight. And moving on. Then below the furnace, there's this tiny cabinet that's next to the fridge. It has a whole bunch of electronic stuff in there, so I don't pack it too tight or pack anything gnarly in there because I don't want it to hit any of these wires or pipes or do any damage. I just feel like it's not the best storage system with all that stuff in there. So I use this as my electrical and miscellaneous cabinet. I've got these stakes for the awning. We kind of just go right up against here. I've got my electrical adapters that I can tuck in here. They're nice and light. They're not going to do too much damage. I've got some gloves for when I empty the sewer system. Several extension cords that go in here. And my surge protector can slide right in here. This side next to the wheel well goes pretty far back, so I can just kind of sneak that in there on the side. When I'm feeling ambitious, I cram the trailer's 30 amp cable in here too. It's not the most convenient place. It doesn't fit the best, but I can fit it in here. Get this kind of squished. It'll make it through here. And if you angle it up, it'll actually fit in there with the door closed. So that's what I use that cabinet for. It's mostly just my miscellaneous and electrical compartment. Then next door to that cabinet is the refrigerator, and you might think that it's pretty self-explanatory what goes in here. And I'd love to show you how I pack this when I pack it with food, but I'm actually having an issue with my fridge at the moment. I can show you actually. When I turn it on here, it turns on, but I am unable to adjust the temperature. Once it turns on there, you'll see all those lights go out. Normally you would adjust the temperature by hitting this button here, and the light would change from like low, medium, more medium, high. but I am unable to adjust the temperature at all. So last time I used my fridge, just hoping that whatever setting it's on would work, it froze everything in the fridge. It turned into a giant freezer. So I gotta get in touch with the manufacturer and fix my fridge, but I haven't had a chance to do it. So instead of turning this on and draining the battery, I'm used to not using the fridge anyway since it's such a battery hog. So I'm just gonna turn this off and I'll put regular food in there like bread and stuff that could use a little bit of insulation anyway because it goes bad quicker in the hot trailer. So I can put stuff in there like bread that gets smushed easily and just like condiments that don't need to be refrigerated and stuff. So I won't be using the fridge on this trip for anything other than just storage and help insulate things like tortillas that go bad quickly. So I can't really show you how I pack the food in that one since it's on the fritz. But if I end up fixing this myself, I'll do a video on it, but I think I might need professional help on that one. It's giving me a hard time. And speaking of food, that's what I use to balance out all the weight that I just put on the driver's side of the trailer by putting food in the cabinets here on the passenger side of the trailer. Again, achieving that balance to make sure the trailer is even side to side and that the brakes will work efficiently. I did put shelves in my cabinets over here. I did a whole video on how I built these if you're interested, but I also added those liners here as well. I think I need to adhere them down some way. I'm going to figure out a way to make them stick because they seem to like move around when you load stuff and crinkle and whatnot, but they actually help stuff not slide out. And I've got all of these shelves to fill. So what I'm going to do is put all the light stuff up here on top and put all the heavy like canned foods and all those things down low. You want the heavier stuff down low and the lighter stuff up top. Starting down here at the bottom, I'm going to put all the heavy stuff and I'm going to put the breakable stuff in the back so it gets smushed in there and doesn't come flying out. This bottom one is carpeted from Scamp, so stuff doesn't slide around too much in here either. But most of this food that I'm putting in here is like emergency food that I like to carry just in case I got trapped somewhere and my trip went longer than expected. I'm pre-diabetic, so I like to have a lot of extra food because I never want to take the risk of being somewhere and running out of food. So this is all just kind of like emergency stuff. And, you know, if I feel like eating it, I can eat it. But this is all kind of like backup shelf stable stuff. So heavy cans, soup cans, all this stuff goes down here at the bottom, where it's less likely to come flying out of a shelf and slam on the ground. There is this little space left over, so I'm going to try to find something that fits there just to kind of help hold those cans in their place. And then this is one of the taller shelves that I have, so I can put lighter things on top of it without worrying about it too much. I've got a lifetime supply of ramen. Like I said, I just never want to run out of food. And also, these are easy meals. If I have a long day on the road and I don't want to deal with cooking anything fancy, make myself a miso soup really quick. Very easy stuff. The lighter weight stuff I don't mind putting on top of the cans. And I'll just fill the shelf best I can and then move on to the next one. Some other stuff that I have to pack isn't really that heavy, so it doesn't really matter where I pack it. I do just like to take stuff out of their packages to save space because there's no reason to have that whole box. You can put this somewhere where it won't get crushed, maybe put it on the next one up. More than weight on this one, I'm trying to just play Tetris. Kind of want to put stuff in a way that'll help hold the other things I place around it in place. You can see how the addition of these shelves has really maximized the amount of stuff I can put inside these cabinets. Before they were just big openings that I could put like really bulky stuff in, but it didn't really help me organize very well. So these cabinets have been a game changer. Another hot tip I have for you is anytime you have leftover condiment packets, just save them in a jar like this. I save a ton of room by not having to pack ketchup, mustard, there's relish in there, there's fire sauce. So all of the things that I would have to pack and put in the fridge and keep refrigerated, I can save space in that tiny fridge by just having them all shelf stable in a little jar like this. Up here in my very top cabinet, I've got a lot of extra room since I'm using the fridge for food storage. So I'm going to put my thermocells up here. I have a couple of these. If you haven't used these yet, they are mosquito repellers and these things work. They're the biggest game changer ever as far as mosquitoes in your campsite go. So I'm going to put those there. I also carry some refills for them, so I'll put those up there. And I've got my probiotics and like some sleep aid gummies up here. So I don't normally have this much extra room, but since it's just me on this trip, I've got a lot of room to spare. And I mentioned I would put my more perishable items in the fridge. Since I'm not using the fridge, I can at least use its insulative properties and protect some smushier foods from getting smushed. If I put them in the cabinet, they might go bad more quickly because of how hot it is, or they might get smushed by the other things in there. Things that don't need to be refrigerated right away, they can still go in here. I can still use this space, even though I'm not using the refrigerator itself. And something odd I'm going to put in here is my bear mace. If you saw my solo safety video, you know I carry this for self-defense. But something I didn't mention in that video is that these things can actually explode if they get too hot. So putting it in the fridge, if it does explode, it'll be contained, but it's less likely to explode because one, it's fall, and two, the fridge is so insulated that it's probably going to be safer in there than just rolling around in one of these cabinets out here. And if you're thinking there's no way that food that I just put in the cabinetry is going to balance out all the weight of the fridge and the furnace and all of my dishes and everything on the other side, you're right. That's what these cabinets are for. In this top cabinet here, I have my emergency wool blanket that I always leave in here and keep in here in case there's a temperature surprise. I always have an extra layer. And then another thing that I always put up here so it's in the same place are these emergency triangles that you can put out if you get a roadside emergency. I talked about this in my emergency preparedness video, which I'll link that video in the corner, but I cover all of my emergency stuff and most of that stuff is already packed, so you won't see me packing it. A lot of it lives in my tow vehicle or it lives in the Velcro pouches that are in the closet, which I'll show you below. So a lot of that stuff is already packed. It never leaves the trailer, but these I always put in this cabinet, so they're always in the same place. So if there's an emergency, I always know exactly where they are. A few other things I put in here that are just for fun. I have a hacky sack because if you've never played hacky sack, it's still fun. I also got a Frisbee because I'm going to be hanging out with some people at one of the campgrounds I'm going to stay. And then this is a spare battery for my Anchor powered cooler, which I'll get to when I start loading my tow vehicle, but I've got a second battery for it. I always like to carry that with me just so there's no chance of my food going bad. I've got a backup battery. This is just a bag of cables for all of my various accessories. I can just toss that in there. Down in this lower cabinet, you'll see the emergency supplies I was telling you about that are in those Velcro pouches, and I covered all of that in my emergency preparedness video. So if you want a thorough breakdown of everything I carry for emergencies, you can see it there. Here on the coat rack, I like to put all my coats, which may look excessive, but I'm going to be traveling across the country at the end of September and early October. So I've got clothing for every climate. Next, I'm going to slip in all of my different shirts in various layers. And that pretty much takes up the closet bar, and it adds enough weight on the right side of the trailer or the passenger side of the trailer to balance out more of the heavy equipment that's installed on the left side or driver's side of the trailer. And since I just put more weight toward the front of the trailer, I need to utilize these back cabinets over the bed to put more weight in the back of the trailer, keeping in mind that front to back balance. I don't want the tongue weight to be too heavy, so I need to put some more stuff back here to balance out the extra weight I just put in the front. Something I've found that makes using these tiny cabinets a lot more user-friendly is to pack a lot of your stuff in these packing cubes. I just got the basic ones off of Amazon. When you need to utilize all of this space, if you're traveling with a companion or kids or several other people, these really compress all of your clothing into nice, packable, easy to pull out cubes. I have a month's worth of socks packed into this one cube, and I've got underwear, bras, shorts, everything all in these packing cubes that slip right in here very easily. And they make it super easy to just pull out what you need and get dressed, especially when you're sharing the space with somebody else and you kind of only have the galley to change in. These slide in here and you can fit a lot more stuff in these cabinets if you pack stuff in packing cubes. I highly recommend. In this cabinet over here, I'm just going to toss my hats. I love to have a lot of hats to choose from. Beanie if it gets cold. On this side, I'm just gonna toss my pajamas. I'm gonna be gone for a month, so several pairs are necessary. And since I put so much weight up front with my jackets and all my t-shirts, I'm gonna add extra weight back here in this available space by putting my pants here. Down here by the base of the door, I installed these shoe holders here. I have 4 of them. I was able to fit 5 pairs of shoes because the sandals they can share. You can get 2 pairs of sandals in one. Got one over here on the other side. These keep your shoes off the floor, out of the way. There's an easy place to stow them away. It's one of my favorite hacks in my Scamp hack video, so definitely go check out that video if you haven't seen it yet. There's a lot of good stuff in there that's made this Scamp a lot more organizable and usable. That's pretty much it for the things I carry inside the Scamp. Everything else goes in the back of my truck inside my tow vehicle. I would typically carry a lot more with me inside my tow vehicle, but this trip is so long, I'm gonna be going fast and light. I'm gonna leave a lot of stuff behind. But if you're wondering what I'm gonna do about refrigeration for my food, that's where my Anchor powered cooler comes in, and that goes in the back of my tow vehicle, and let me show you why. I installed these 12-volt outlets here in the back of my pickup truck in the bed so I can plug in my portable power station and charge it while I'm driving with the vehicle's alternator. So not only will my power station get charged up while I drive, I can plug my powered cooler into the power station and it can charge and power the cooler at the same time. So my cooler battery gets topped off while I'm driving, my portable power station gets topped off while I'm driving. So if I drive long days, I end up at the end of every day with a fully powered power station and a fully charged up powered cooler. So keeping my food cold is never an issue if I keep them both in the back of my pickup truck here, working together, charging from the truck's alternator. But in my off-grid tips and tricks video, I mentioned that that powered cooler is 60 pounds empty, and I got a lot of questions about how I get that up into the back of my truck bed when I'm solo, so let me show you how I do that real quick. I don't actually fill my cooler before I load it because Anchor makes it so convenient with these removable baskets that I can just take these inside and fill them with the food directly from my fridge, and then once the cooler's already loaded in the truck, I can just place them back in here with all the food inside. So there's no reason to load the cooler before I get it up into my truck. But even empty, 60 pounds, this bulky, is pretty awkward to get up this high in the back of my truck bed. So I just make myself a little ramp with a solid piece of lumber. So my vehicle charges the power station. The power station powers the cooler. Everything's connected in the back of my truck, and all my batteries get topped off while I drive. And don't worry, I do have a locking tailgate, so once the tailgate is up, there's not even enough space to get this cooler out. So it'd be pretty difficult to steal it, so I keep it locked up tight, and that's where all my food goes. Some other things that go in the tow vehicle are coffee for the drive and water for the drive. These containers are both by Arctic, and I highly recommend them because they're way cheaper than Yeti, and they are porcelain lined, so you don't get that metallic taste. The coffee has a rubber bumper on the bottom so it doesn't rattle in your cup holder, and they fit really easily in the cup holders and have great handles. So I love my Arctic thermos and water bottle. They keep the drinks hot for 6 hours and they keep iced for 24 hours. It's crazy. I've gone on a hike and come back the next day and there's still been ice in my Arctic jug. So highly recommend these if you don't have them. I'll link them below as well. I also always carry emergency water in my car for obvious reasons. If there's an emergency and I need it for the car or for myself, I have plenty. Always have emergency water in the vehicle, as well as plenty of road snacks / emergency food. I always have emergency food in the car as well. You never know if you're going to encounter an emergency when you're separated from your trailer. So it's always a good idea to have some water and some food in your tow vehicle, as well as some insulation, just in case something were to happen when you aren't with your trailer. The last 2 things I have to load up are my Easy Up and my surfboard. I typically put my Easy Up in the back of my pickup, but it is too long to go in a straight line. I have to do it diagonally and it kind of gets in the way of the cooler. So this time I'm going to try to put it on the roof of my truck and see if I prefer it up there. I don't care if it gets wet in the rain, so I'm going to put it on top of the tow vehicle and see how that goes. Oof. That was kind of a bitch, but honestly, I'm on a hill right now, and that's only coming down once I get to my destination, so I'm gonna ratchet it up there and see how it goes. All right, it's up there. It's pretty snug. I'm just gonna try it. I've never done it this way before, so if it gets like buzzy or rattly or I don't like it, I can always just throw it in the back of the truck. But it'd be easier to get to my cooler without it in there, so I'm gonna try it this way for a change. This last item, she's my passenger princess, so she gets the full queen treatment. She's going up here with me. Bet you didn't know you could fit a surfboard in the cab of a truck like that, did you? That's it. I'm ready to hit the road, y'all. First thing in the morning, I'm going to hitch up and tow this thing out of here. So if you see me on the highway, be sure and honk and wave. And if you've been watching these videos and you haven't said anything in the comments yet, say hello in the comments. I'd love to meet you. If you have any questions, concerns, drop those in there as well. Until next time, I'm going to hit the road. I'll see you out there.